Look, I've heard the rumours out there. They think I'm scared to fight. But the truth is, I've been getting ready for my fantasy football draft. When it comes to my draft, I don't mess around. I grab the Fantasy Footballers Ultimate Draft Kit right away. It's full of premium rankings, video profiles, sleepers. The best part is, it's always getting updated. Your competition won't stand a chance. Head over to www.ultimatedraftkit.com and make sure you don't end up a pathetic loser.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
The Fantasy Footballers are back. We're back. In some ways, we never leave. We never leave. See that intro by Conor McGregor? What you might not know is it doesn't cost you it's not $100 million to pick up the Ultimate Draft Kit.
No, we caught him right after that press conference.
Yep.
He's training he's got a big fight.
Big fight
Coming up.
Fight.
And I'm talking about his football draft.
Yeah.
Right. So he grabbed the Ultimate Draft Kit because he knows that's the way to success.
Yeah. Authentic. Real. That is the Fantasy Footballers. Andy, Mike, and Jason back
Thanks,
again.
Connor.
Brooks manning the helm. We have a great show for you today. This is all we do all the time. We talk fantasy football. We get you prepped for your draft, prepped for the 2017 season. Catch you up on some of the rumors going on. And today we're talking risers and fallers. And we're talking ADP risers and fallers, average draft position players that are moving around. This is from data gathered from Fantasy Football Calculator based on mock drafts that take place each and every day. Over the last month, I was very curious myself to see who's been moving the very most. Always interesting. We talk about different guys on the show, guys that we really like, guys that we're fading on, the values that you can find in the draft. I just wrote an article on late-round quarterbacks. And the whole concept of, look, it is not about doing X, Y, and Z. It is about maximizing value. It is about putting yourself in a position with your fantasy team to get the best value at every draft pick so you have the best odds of winning, right? I don't know. I surprise to everybody, especially those that call me the Fantasy Reaper. I actually don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen in training camp, and I don't know what's going to happen in week one. But the best guess that we have is based on taking all of that information, all that data, and, it's like a weatherman, right?
Well, it's also like economics. I mean, I wish I could go back. People ask you that question. If you could go back to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
Find a barber. Oh, sorry.
No,
I was answering for you.
I'd go back if I could change just one thing. I'd say, Mike, pay better attention in that economics class.
Sure.
Because that knowledge is useful for your fantasy football drafts and math too.
And math. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
So he'd just like to be smarter.
Right.
Is basically.
Oh, I'm just saying,
If I had one wish, I wish I just was smarter.
You're always in these classes thinking, well, as the normal teenager does, you cross your arms and you turn your hat around backwards and you say, I'm never going to use this in my real life.
Little did you know fantasy
False.
football was coming.
Spreadsheets. You need this stuff all the time.
No, that's true. It's funny because I was thinking, the amount of spreadsheet stuff we do and all the formulas I see Jason pouring over, I'm going, man, that really mattered. That tech class I took in 7th grade.
Standard deviation.
We do have a really good show for you today. And a reminder, if you listen to us on Tuesday, we're also on Saturday this week. It's July, so we have 3 shows a week. Great show coming up on Saturday, so make sure you subscribe to the pod. Tune into that one. Couple of reminders before we grab the quick question, and the quick question is Megatron related. All right, and no, there's a new Transformers movie. We're talking Calvin Johnson, but we'll bring him up. FootClanVote.com. Head over there. Vote for us to hopefully be nominated for the People's Choice and the Sports and Recreation categories. This is the 2017 Podcast Awards.
Let's do it, Foot Clan.
Let's do it. FootClanVote.com. It takes about, 30, 40 seconds to do, and then you're done. So if you like the show, head over there. Also, a reminder, FootClanGiveaway.com. We're giving away a ton of autographed gear. So if you're a big T.Y. Hilton, Tevin Coleman, Tyreek Hill fan,
and who
that's
doesn't
pretty much
love
everybody.
Who doesn't love some of these guys?
When we were at the Fantasy Sports Conference in New York a couple weeks ago, they were talking about the amount of fantasy football players that buy gear for their fantasy team, and I understand that.
Oh, yeah.
Like Mike, when he won one of the first titles in one of our main leagues, he bought a massive poster for his wall, and he just put it up. It wasn't a hometown player.
No, it was Robert Griffin III.
It was Robert Griffin III, and I bet that can be purchased on discount now.
Just slightly. Hey, do you want mine?
You can actually just rent him for very cheap, and he can come to your office.
A tableau, just stands in the corner.
Exactly. He does the mannequin challenge, and he nails it.
Tons of great new articles on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Make sure you check them out. Quick question, guys. Here's the quick question for the day before we get into everything else. I just want you to weigh in on the very brief Megatron rumors that came up yesterday. To give you the scope of this thing, there was a SleeperBot alert that came through, which if you don't have the SleeperBot app, it's just a great tool. Like you got your fantasy tool belt, just throw the SleeperBot app in that tool belt because it's great.
It's right next to the shark repellent.
Right, yeah.
Also important.
It's free. You can grab it. But one of the reports that came through said, hey, look, Calvin Johnson says he would love to play with Derek Carr. Also talked about the fact that basically the reason he left the Detroit Lions is he saw no future for the team as a Super Bowl contender, was locked up in that huge contract. If you remember, it was a monster deal, $60 million guaranteed, $132 million contract. Knew they wouldn't let him out of it, so he retired. I don't think he was done.
Right.
No,
I think he was just done.
He hadn't faded at all physically. I mean, I don't think we watched his game get any worse whatsoever. The reality here is that the Detroit Lions still own his rights. If he comes out of retirement, he's a Detroit Lion. They would have to let him go, and they wouldn't. Unlike where Marshawn Lynch, if Marshawn Lynch came out of retirement,
he was still under contract.
He was still under contract, but that killed the Seahawks because they had no cap room, and his contract was large. They basically had to cut him. It was like a forced cut. I think the Lions would be
like the Lions.
Well, I think the Lions would go, ooh, Calvin? Sure. Let's have him back.
And the difference, too, that was really highlighted by this report is, Marshawn Lynch and the respect that he has in Seattle facilitated his return and the release. Things did not end well for Calvin Johnson in Detroit. He even said it more publicly. This is the first time he was negative about Detroit, first time he talked about things not ending the way they should have. But I'm bringing it up because, Mike, what are the odds that Calvin Johnson finds his way back in the NFL? I think this is important when those new rumors start flying around to kind of weigh in. Should people go spend their entire fab budget on Calvin Johnson?
I'm sitting at a 0.0002%.
So you've had to really ramp up the decimals since your incorrect Marshawn Lynch prediction?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Calvin's not coming back.
I think what's interesting about
if he's free in a dynasty league to add to your bench, do you do it as a cursory 2-month thing?
I mean, if you have just a garbage player that
Capri Bibbs or Calvin Johnson on your bench.
Sure, then I'll put Calvin Johnson on the bench. What's more interesting is just the whole situation of a player actually coming out and saying, I mean, he could have kept playing for a large amount of money, and like you said, he wasn't done, but he was still getting banged up. I mean, he's sustaining injuries, and if he keeps playing, of course, you're going to get more and more injured to the lowering the quality of your life as you get older. And he thought, I'm good. I've got enough money, and I'm never going to get that Super Bowl ring, which it's really interesting to examine that whole situation.
You don't want to blow up your body for a bad team. I mean, it's not a coincidence that the other great example we have is Barry Sanders, also with the Lions.
I heard an interview with Tony Gonzalez a few weeks back, and he was talking about, for him, it wasn't even the physical grind that was the hardest part about coming back year after year. It was the mental grind of going through the film, of going into the locker room and doing that over and over again. I think he just hit the wall, and so he's done. And he was a great fantasy player, and he's a great NFL player, one of the best. But maybe, just a shorter career than I think a lot expected or hoped.
I would sure wish that those Seth Roberts targets were going to Calvin, though.
Could we get a Foot Clan Assemble horn real quick? I'm going to say this one time. It is big news. It is big news. It's only
Yeah.
I'm only going to mention it once because
yes.
look, we have people reach out a lot and ask
my.
if they could write for the fantasy footballers. And we have a small, very select group of
They're close-knit.
yeah, and wonderful group of writers. I mean, just great people, great writers, highly vetted group, and we are opening it up for 2 to 3 more writers to come on staff and join that amazing group. I'm only mentioning it once because that's all it's going to take. We're going to close this thing up in terms of taking in applications over the weekend. And so the address, I'm going to give it to you if you want to apply. The address is thefantasyfootballers.com/writers. Thefantasyfootballers.com/writers. So if you have a history.
You got till the 16th.
There you go. You guys ready to get into the ADP risers?
The guys moving and shaking, those are the ones that you need to
Hey.
need to talk about.
Is that what you...
Yo.
You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
You're
I was imagining you like at a wedding reception on the dance floor, and that's the noises you make while you dance.
Have you seen me? Hey, have you seen me dance before?
No one has.
I don't think I
Oh,
have.
people have seen me dance before, and it's always at weddings.
And you make those sounds?
You ever seen Planet Earth 2? Like
on the BBC?
Very strange. Yeah, BBC. Very similar to some of those birds
Oh,
that you might have
all
seen
right.
on the planet Earth.
With the big mask, and you do
I'm
the
just,
hop around.
it's a little bit Elaine Bennis. It's a little bit, like a giraffe
I was
blindfolded.
going to say, with your stature, I can see that happening.
Oh yeah, and the whole family dances that way. Like my brother, sister, we're all too tall to dance. All right, ADP risers and fallers. Let's check in. You heard the drop. Let's check in. Let's see what the ADPs are doing. Let's start out with Eddie Lacy.
It's a good place to start.
Eddie Lacy, he is falling, gentlemen. He was, as of June 11th, the 3rd pick in the 4th round. He's dropped 16 picks since then. His average draft position right now is the RB25, the 7th pick of the 5th round. Jason, you're the most bullish on him. Why don't you talk a little bit about maybe why he's falling and what you believe about the value of Eddie Lacy right now in fantasy drafts?
Yeah, I mean, Eddie Lacy is the type of player that has all the talent, the possibility for opportunity. I mean, he could end up being a very valuable pick this year. That being said, I don't project him that way. I've got him as I think about where he's being drafted right now, either a high-end 3 or a low-end running back 2. The reason he's been falling, and it makes complete sense, is because he has not been a full participant here in, the mini camps and in OTAs, as he was not expected to. He's met his weigh-ins coming off of the surgery that he had. Thomas Rawls has been there. He's being involved. And so, news comes out saying, I think Thomas Rawls and Eddie Lacy might split the load. Well, of course you think they're going to split the load. You're only seeing Thomas Rawls right now involved, but I believe that Eddie Lacy will be the predominant ball carrier there. This is a quote from Pete Carroll. He said he's really joined in. He's been a really good addition. He's been competing the whole time he's been here, more so than anybody, because he's had a lot to overcome. He's done a beautiful job. He's off to a great start. So praise from Pete Carroll. This month is his only month off of the weigh-in. They said they weren't expecting him right now to be anywhere other than where he's at. So for his ADP to be falling to where you can draft him as an RB3, I think now you're not risking anything much. And the upside is if at the end of the year Eddie Lacy was an RB1, I could see that there. And you can't say that for most of the, 5th, 6th round running backs.
Yeah, to your last point, I used to be able to see that. I can't see it anymore. The vision is foggy. I need some glasses if I'm going to have a shot at seeing Eddie Lacy. Is that he's a player who every single year of his career his numbers have decreased. And that's been the concern. He had 187 carries in 15 games 2 years ago, 758 yards. I just don't know how much of a role he's going to play. I believe that, much like C.J. Anderson, when he's on the field and playing, you're kind of like, oh, that guy's pretty good. He kind of runs for 5 a carry, 4.5 to 5 a carry. Mike, you have him ranked much as I do in the 40s.
I actually, as Jason was talking, I gave him a little boost.
You gave him a boost
because unlike what it seems the public are doing of falling on Eddie Lacy, I'm getting more and more acclimated and okay with Lacy. He's making his check-ins, and he's just I'm with Jason that when he's on the field, I think that he is a sensational player. I'm not afraid of Thomas Rawls in the least. CJ Prosise is, I think he'll have his role, but it's not the featured role for Seattle. So he was too low for me. I had him.
You had him at 45?
Yeah, and I bumped him up to 37. So he's still outside of the range of an RB3, which is
probably too low still.
It's probably still too low, but as it stands, I don't know if I would be willing to draft him in the 5th. But the fact that his ADP is falling, if we can get him into the 6th round, I'd be very happy to take him there.
Certainly happier, for someone who's lower than the other two guys, certainly happier with his draft position here in the back of the 5th round. I think he is a roster construction type of player.
Yep.
And, I'm worried that we're going to see, 180 carries for 750 yards and a few touchdowns. I don't know if that's going to be worth it to me.
The carries are going to determine.
Yep.
I think that's the issue is if he ends up splitting 50-50 with Rawls, then you're not going to be happy when you draft him. But if he ends up as the predominant ball carrier, you say he got worse every season. That's I guess kind of true. But
just in terms of attempts, yards, and touchdowns every year.
Well, but that's
for 4 consecutive years.
Except last year it was because he got injured. He was on pace for 1,152 yards. I mean, that was great. He was running for 5.07 a carry. So he wasn't getting worse. He just got injured and didn't get to play.
I mean, I'll take the pudding though. You give me the pudding.
What's
it's the proof. You just
give
me the end of the year number.
Whether
it's Carlos Hyde or C.J. Anderson, just show me what he's done.
But
All
if Seattle was actually comfortable with Thomas Rawls, would they have given Eddie Lacy the contract they gave him?
Yes.
They guaranteed
him. I don't see that.
Well, okay, what does comfortable mean? Certainly they're not comfortable with a guy who's been hurt all the time. So comfortable as a full-time starter. There's no way Thomas Rawls is getting the day one, first and second down work. I just think it's going to be a committee between the two. Rawls on the field last year, there were times he looked just like the dynamic Rawls we saw coming out that everybody drafted high. I think it's just going to be shared. That being said, that's not the point of this segment. This segment, we're talking about the ADP and the drop. We heard the reasons why from Jason. Much more comfortable in the 5th round. Here's a player also going in the 5th round, a few picks higher because he's rising. In fact, he's moved 20 picks to the north.
Yeah, I need a key off for that one.
Mike.
You got it?
Oh, I think I have it.
Gilly, baby.
Mike Gillislee.
Woo-hoo!
From the 10th pick in the 6th round, now all the way up to almost the fringe 4th round. It's too rich for my blood, Mike.
Not at all.
I can't take Mike Gillislee and the ever-morphing New England offense and lock him in because – here's the thing. There isn't a LeGarrette Blount role. There's LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette Blount played the role that was made for him by the captain, and nobody else played it before or after to me. So I think there will be a Mike Gillislee role, and I hope it's worth an RB24. What do you think?
No, I completely get that. What LeGarrette Blount did last year, that's not the regular for New England. And with Rex Burkhead, James White got a new contract extension. The rumors are finally escaping from the bushes, which I've been kind of talking about the whole offseason of Deion Lewis may be on the chopping block, which that makes a lot of sense.
That's your math skills could tell you that.
Yes, 4 was too many.
4 was too many.
But Mike Gillislee, the opportunity of what he could be of in that offense is absolutely worth the risk of a 5th round, even a 4th round to me for what he could become. He's the best running back
they've had in a long time.
I talked about they haven't had that role for a while. They haven't had a talent like Mike Gillislee in a very long time. So if a guy has that talent and they're always going to be winning because the Patriots will always be winning, the game scripts will heavily favor what Mike Gillislee's skill set brings. And even if he's just the goal line guy, a running back who is touchdown dependent, the running back for the New England Patriots,
Right.
yeah, I will gladly draft him in the fourth
Chris
round.
Raybon over at 444 wrote this great article where he investigated it really deep, went into every type of back, the power back, the pass catching back, and went back several years for the Patriots. And in that, it really did kind of, I think, that might be part and parcel of people getting more confident. Here's the power back roles touchdowns. Obviously 18 is an outlier with LeGarrette Blount, but the power back in New England, this is the touchdowns since 2012. 12 touchdowns, 14, 10, 7, and then 18 last year. So, other than the 1-7, they're all double digits. The power backs over that time.
Yeah, who was the 7? Was that LeGarrette Blount?
That was Blount, yes.
Okay.
But Blount only had 12 games that year. Yeah, Jonas Gray, Stephen Ridley.
Jonas Gray.
Yeah.
Marcus Mosher on Twitter posted the Mike Gillislee numbers against 6 or 7 in the box, which he should see a lot of in New England. 7 in the box, he ran for a cool 7.94 a carry.
Yeah, big plays are coming.
Not entirely fair since he was, the backup in that role. But
yeah, but you put 11 men in the box, he only ran for 1 yard a carry.
Dang it! His kryptonite.
Apparently that
his
happened.
Kryptonite is
apparently
every
that
player.
happened one time.
When every player is playing against
All right, so
the
we
run.
have some believers. You're buying in. Is it not? It's not too rich for you at 502, so you're still in on
like I
Mike
said,
Gilly.
Fourth round is
Okay.
not rich to me.
We're going to move on to another player here. Before we do that, we do want to thank today's sponsor, Bombfell. Boom! Bombfell. Look, guys out there, you're like me, and you hate shopping for clothes. And that's true, because I'll just wear the same old stuff over and over and over again. There is a better way to get clothes. Bombfell is the better way to get clothes. It's very unique. It's very cool. I think you're going to really like it. I am wearing a shirt that I got from Bombfell right now, and it is an online personal styling service that helps men find clothes that are right for them. And it's not like all those other services out there. There are no fees. You don't pay any fees. It doesn't cost you anything to sign up. And it's really neat. What they do, it's simple, straightforward. You fill out a questionnaire, and they send you out clothes, right? They have a personal stylist assigned to you. They pick out clothes they think are best for you. They send them out to you. You've paid nothing. You try them on. You see which ones you like. You pay for the ones you keep. You send the other ones back, and they keep working to get your style right. I absolutely love it. I just got this in the mail the other day. Sent a couple pieces back I didn't love. Kept this shirt. Kept another one that I loved. Best of all, we've negotiated a deal with Bombfell to get our listeners a special $25 off your first purchase when you go to bombfell.com/footballers. That's Bombfell, spelled BOMBFELL.com/footballers.
And a huge shout out to our great friends over at Pristine Auction. If you haven't heard us talk about them yet, or if you haven't checked them out yet, you got to go to pristineauction.com. They are the best and only place for sports memorabilia signed that are authentic signatures. Everything is fully legit, JSA certified, and the price is because it's an auction. I mean, really, truly, you're just blown away sometimes. You can steal stuff over there in this auction
Don't
format.
tell them, though.
Legally.
You can legally steal stuff. My dad's birthday is coming up. Thankfully, he doesn't listen
Like
to the
most
show.
of my trades with Jason.
And I'm looking for something for him. And they have more than sports, too. But you can combine sports with entertainment. You know what I saw on there the other day? A signed Bobby Boucher.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
The
Adam
jersey from the
Sandler.
Waterboy?
Yeah, the Waterboy
Yeah.
jersey. So that's cool. Look, you got to check them out. You won't regret it. You can grab them for yourself or for gifts for other people. Go to pristineauction.com. That's PRISTINE auction.com. It's free to sign up and tell them the footballers sent you.
All right, I think I can explain why this next guy's ADP has been going up.
Oh,
From the 704
I think we know.
to the 605, another riser. It's
Smash Jackson! We've rebranded him.
Paul Perkins himself, Smash Jackson as we refer to him, only for his good.
Right. I feel the need to qualify that every time.
Right, like we believe he's the greatest player in the world, because if your name's Smash Jackson, you are.
Oh, right. You're the Chuck Norris of running backs.
Yeah, you deserve your own action figure line.
But what really happened, if you're just getting back into fantasy football, you haven't heard us refer to Paul Perkins as Smash Jackson. No one wants to draft a guy named Paul Perkins. So we rebranded him because he is the starting running back in a good role in New York. He has the opportunity to succeed. Now,
I just got a health insurance quote from Paul Perkins.
exactly. So he's rising now. He's in the 6th round as the running back 29.
Long-term care insurance, actually. That's what it was.
Is that too high? Is that where he should be?
No,
is he
it's
still
not
a
too
value?
high. No, for me, it's not. I mean, you have a guy that's in a position to be an opportunity play at worst, and from what I saw in college and in spurts during his rookie season, he flashed at times. He's not a guy that's going to destroy you between the tackles, but you put him in space, and most importantly, you put him on the field, and sure, I'm going to spend a 6th-round pick on that.
Yeah, and there's the competition behind him. Shane Vereen, I expect to be involved, but Wayne Gallman, their rookie, not really worried about. The big
So
salad.
he's the one who found the ring, right?
Yes.
Frodo's ring?
Yes.
Are you worried about Orleans Darkwa?
Gallman?
He's the only one who gives you a question because of the reports that he was taking some first-team reps. I don't really know what to make of that, but just going off of the end of the last season, Paul Perkins had some good games, especially when his first start, he went over 100 yards. Am I remembering that correct?
That was last week of the season, I believe. Over 100 yards in his first start.
And he passes the eye test. It's not a great run-blocking offense, and you know that they're going to rely on the pass game with Beckham and Marshall. But to get a starting running back in the 6th, they're pretty depleted at that point.
Over under 4 touchdowns for Paul Perkins.
Ooh, that's a good line.
So that's my big
there.
concern with production levels for him.
Yeah.
I think I would take the over, but it's
close.
I mean, if you told me over under at 5, I'm gonna have to push.
All right, we're going to talk about a pair of guys rising and falling together on the same roster. Dalvin Cook rising, Latavius Murray falling. Cook has moved up 2 whole rounds pretty much, 22 picks since June 11th. Well, not coincidentally, Latavius Murray has dropped 21 picks. So now Cook is going 8th pick of the 5th round. Murray's going the 12th pick of the 7th round. Mike, you've been very pronounced in your, I would say, resistant support of
Yes.
Latavius Murray and the opportunity. They did pay him. So what is your take on how this will break down? And are you simply taking the better value on draft day versus the youngster versus the old guy?
The only guy I would actually draft would be Cook. And I've talked about during the offseason, I would take Murray ahead of Cook because I feel like what Andy was talking about, they paid him to come in and be the starter. But Latavius Murray still hurt. Dalvin Cook is soaking up the reps. It's the best possible thing for Dalvin Cook is to get a chance to shine, impress the coaches while the presumed starter is just on the side and can't do anything about it. That's how you steal somebody's job. Now, is Dalvin Cook good enough to rise above a really poor offensive line? I'm not sure about that. I think his college tape is great. His college production is incredible. He was one of my favorite running backs coming into this draft class, and then the combine happened. Where he put up these unbelievably bizarre, bad athletic measurables. Now, I'm not going to let that completely taint what I've seen him do against competition, but on that team, I'm not sure that he can get it done. Meanwhile, his ADP is going to continue to rise. Am I reading that right? He's in the 5th round now?
He is in the 5th round.
You're
yes.
choosing him or you're choosing Mike Gillislee.
Yeah, and
or Eddie Lacy.
That's not even close.
What about him
with
or
Mike
Lacy,
Gillislee.
though?
I think I'm going to take Lacy.
Yeah.
I would take Lacy as well. I do think Cook has the ability to overcome the issues there. Their offensive line is a little bit better than it was last year. And, you could talk measurables all you want. I know, draft Twitter and fantasy football hardcore fans, man, we love our analytics and we love our measurables and we love our spark score. But it's like, look, Jerick McKinnon is a spark freak.
Yeah,
he's
true.
on that team. He's never done anything with it. And you can say all the time, you can complain, oh, they should have given him the ball more or whatever. Christian Michael, he's a spark freak. There's plenty of guys that are great, measurable guys who don't get it done, and there are plenty of guys that are bad measurables who do get it done. He got it done in college. I think he can. But his ADP is too high right now. He's not going to be the goal line back. I think when Latavius Murray gets there, Latavius is going to be the goal line guy. So now you're relying on breakaway touchdowns, which he can do. But if he's not, a workhorse back in the 5th round as a rookie that you haven't seen before, that's too many question marks for me.
Some similar metrics to a guy like Tevin Coleman. Dalvin Cook matches up pretty well, and it does take – you have to be a running back who can put it together between the ears. He's been in that starting role before in college. It's just going to come down to how much opportunity he has to score, like you said. All right, let's talk about another couple of pairs rising and falling. This is the common theme right now. You see excitement for the rookie, and at times you can see too extreme of a drop for the incumbent. Joe Mixon and Jeremy Hill. Mixon's now all the way up, 23 picks from June 11th. From the 5th pick in the 5th round now to the 6th pick of the 3rd round, which is RB 15.
That's ridiculous.
And Jeremy Hill is now the RB 47 off the board. I still think Hill's involved in that offense. And then Samaje Perine rising, Rob Kelly falling. But let's start in Cincinnati.
Yeah, so Joe Mixon, if you go back and listen a couple months ago,
is this our fault, guys?
No, we're
not. Is
this
your fault, Jason?
Yes, I would love to take credit, but we're not alone in our love for Mixon. I know a couple months ago we were saying Mixon was one of the best values in the draft, and if you were drafting, then he was, because he was at that point he was like 7th, 8th round, and you knew that was wrong. But to be the 15th running back drafted off the board. I need to be sure as a rookie coming in. I know the talent. He's got it in spades, but I need to be sure of the role and the opportunity. But you're not here because, the reports are that they believe Jeremy Hill will still be involved. And why would he not be on the goal line? He's one of the best goal line backs in the National Football League. He has been since he's been in the league. And then, sure, Gio Bernard, he's currently still rehabbing an ACL, and that's helped bump Mixon up a little bit. But the reports are that he's, on track as well. That something came out and said he could start the year on the PUP. But if you actually look at what he's doing, the work he's doing, he was in the OTAs on the field, not a full participant by any means, but he was on the rehab field, and there's a lot of mouths to feed there. I love Joe Mixon. There's no way I'm taking him as the 15th running back off the board because you're basically drafting him up near where his ceiling is.
No, he hasn't had to me, when I look at the best ball leagues, I haven't seen him drafted that high. So I'm taking him in a lot of best ball leagues in the 5th, 6th round, and I'm loving it because I don't have to worry about the acclimation period. Maybe Joe Mixon isn't all we hope he is until week 6 or 7. I mean, that's possible. It's not going to hurt me in best ball as much.
And you have Jeff Hobson, who works for the Bengals.com, their official website. He's said he still expects Jeremy Hill to be part of the team. He's expecting him to factor near the goal line. And if you take the goal line away from Joe Mixon.
I love this offense in this team this year. I really do.
I agree.
I love Cincinnati.
If Jeremy Hill keeps that goal line job and Joe Mixon has to share time with him and Gio, it's RB15 is a little bit too rich for me. It's the thing of what could Joe Mixon become if they actually gave him the 3-down role very soon on. I mean, that's a steal then at running back 15. But I don't believe that's going to happen.
All right, let me ask you this question. Who wins that division? I think I might have asked it on the show already a couple months ago, but who do you think wins that division? So I think I'm going to take Cincinnati.
Are you?
Really?
I am. It's tough to say not to go with Pittsburgh as the cream of the crop in that division.
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I have to lean that way as well.
I love that division. Every year there are battles between Baltimore, Pittsburgh.
I wish those teams.
Oh, wait, Cleveland's in that division too.
Hey, Deshaun Kaiser will have something to say this year.
Someday.
I wish that they didn't have to play 6 division games. They're fun to watch of Ravens versus Steelers. It seems like they're never great for fantasy production, though.
Right.
Meanwhile, when they play other teams, you see Big Ben
go ham.
Yeah, so we need a new rule, a fantasy rule, that the AFC North doesn't have to play 6 division games.
All right, I have another potential value in mind, but I want to see whether you believe it. Mike, it seems that you don't presently believe it. Corey Coleman is falling. 16 picks he's fallen since June 11th. Jason, the reason? Injury.
I mean, it's very simple. You had Corey Coleman miss basically for all intents and purposes his entire rookie year, And now you come into the second year, and as soon as I start getting excited about him, he pulls up, with a hammy, and now he's missing camp again.
And we don't mean a sandwich.
That is not a good sign.
There's no moons over his hammy.
Right. It's not a good sign. However, that being said, I don't think what's happening right now with his injury changes his upside. Right? His upside is identical to what it was before. If he's there on week 1, he has, to me, the upside to be a top 15 wide receiver. I mean, Tyrell Pryor did that last year, and yes, Tyrell Pryor's bigger, but he's no Corey Coleman when it comes to skill set, route running, the ability. I mean, I made the joke last episode that Corey Coleman was tied on a per-game basis with Antonio Brown, but that one game in week 2 where he showed what he can do, I mean, his upside is tremendous, and now that he's in the 10th round, there's very little risk. I'll throw away a 10th round pick shooting darts at trying to get, one of those top 15 guys, and that's Corey Coleman. So I actually like this. I like where he's at right now. I wish he wasn't injured, but if he wasn't injured right now, then he would probably be rising.
I think Corey Coleman in the 10th round, you're taking your dart and you're just spiking it right into the ground.
What?
You're not the guy to get on the Cleveland Browns is Kenny Britt. You talked about the big guy, Tyrell Pryor, who got it done. Kenny Britt's the big guy. If I'm drafting any wide receiver from the Cleveland Browns, it's going to be Kenny Britt. 1,000 yards. He did what Tyrell Pryor did last year. He was on a really bad team.
So he's already proven he can do
got
that.
1,000 yards. I mean, that's what I want. And Kenny Britt's going after Corey Coleman.
If there's one lesson we learned from this discussion, it's that Isaiah Crowell's getting the ball. Hand it off and help those young quarterbacks. All right, I want to talk about Tyrell Williams. He's moved up 26 picks. It's a little easier to do when you started at the back of the 13th round. I have to believe the 26 picks has a lot to do with rookie Mike Williams and the injury. But Tyrell Williams, I think, had been just generally too ignored, too much of a placeholder mindset in fantasy owners' minds with Tyrell Williams and the production last year. Yet when you look at the production, you see a player who had, one of the highest levels of consistency over the course of the year. Jason, you've been touting Tyrell Williams. You have him the highest of us three. What's his actual upside?
Well, I think we saw a bit, shades of his upside last year when he was almost a wide receiver 1. Now, I will grant you that Keenan Allen is back. And
much different team.
Yes, it's a much different team. If Tyrell Williams goes away, a la Kamar Aiken when, Steve Smith returned to town for the Ravens, then I won't be shocked. But you do have an athletic freak in Tyrell Williams who clearly got it done with Phillip Rivers. Everything that when we're looking, you talk about the spreadsheets and all the work we're doing, just always poring over data and making new metrics and just diving deeper. He's probably one of the most common guys that sticks out to me of surprising. I'm looking at this stat or that stat, and I go,
one of these guys shouldn't be in that list.
And it's always Tyrell Williams. So sure, he could fade, but his upside to me would again be a wide receiver 2, no problem.
Okay.
I feel like Tyrell Williams he will go essentially full Kamar Aiken. A draft of Tyrell Williams is kind of that coin flip of you think that Keenan Allen may not be ready to start the year, or you think that Keenan Allen will get hurt again because he's done that the last couple of years. And Tyrell, I think, would be once again the biggest benefactor if something happened to Allen.
I don't think, like, when I look at what Tyrell Williams can do, I think he can do I think he can be a wide receiver 2 with Keenan Allen playing 16 games because Travis Benjamin, Dontrell Inman, I think those guys, can go away. They, put Mike Williams on the field to help block for, the new running focused head coach, and let Tyrell Williams streak down the field and grab those bombs over the top.
Preferably clothed.
Either way, just catch the touchdown, man.
All right, I'm gonna basically update listeners on some movement for other players, and then I want to talk about one last guy on the show. So in terms of other guys that we're not going to discuss, but I'd just like to let people know about, Danny Woodhead is rising. He moved up 11 picks in that time span.
So where, though?
Danny Woodhead moved from 812 to 801.
Still a tremendous value.
Sure. Mark Ingram is falling from the 509 to the 606. Tevin Coleman Tevin Coleman is falling.
Oh, really?
He's down 9 picks since June 11th. Maybe it's a little contract talk with Devonta Freeman. I'm not sure. Might just be a little bit of
sensibility.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs is rising. He's
appropriate.
Up 9 picks. He's the wide receiver 33 off the board, though, still. So could be a real big PPR value. And then Quincy Enunwa, he's rising. He's up 33 picks, but he was back at 1308. This has a lot to do with Decker being officially cut release. Quincy Enunwa, I was listening to a Jets beat writer this morning talk about Enunwa. His opinion is Enunwa's just not a 1. He may be the de facto 1. He's not built to be a 1. And to add to the hype, Austin Seferian-Jenkins was the name that would not leave his lips. He said he would not be surprised if he's the leading pass catcher in the way he looked in camp. So I love Austin Seferian-Jenkins as a sleeper pick. I love him in best ball. He's my favorite last-round best ball pick.
I did a best ball draft with some fans yesterday on Play Draft. Austin Seferian-Jenkins was my last pick.
Perfect last pick because he's always there. Devontae Parker's rising. He's up 9 picks in the 8th round.
Well, hold on. I think there's more
hype.
There's more positive reports coming in as we speak.
Yeah, word is he actually pulled a semi-truck down off of an old lady, saved her life.
And he did it hopping on one leg.
Yep, it was amazing.
That's Miami.
It seemed that's Miami. John Brown is rising. He's up 8 picks, but he's still a late 9th round draft pick. Wide receiver 42 off the board. I want to close out talking about Deshaun Jackson. I think this is the most interesting falling case.
Falling?
Since June 11th. He was 703. Now his average draft position is down at 711. So he is down 8 picks since the beginning of the month. He's the wide receiver 34.
He's a Slurpee.
It's right where we have him. Jason has him 34 exactly. I have him 37. Mike has him 40. I wonder if this was post-signing hype and maybe it gave way a little bit with Chris Godwin being drafted. Maybe it gave way just because the hype wasn't there anymore. I talked about it on the show on Tuesday. Deshaun Jackson is the same age as Pierre Garçon. I think the reason people think Garçon is elderly is because he's moved from being a deep threat like Deshaun Jackson used to be to being more of a possession receiver where Jackson has not lost the speed. I love Jackson from a NFL perspective and what he does for Jameis Winston. But at 7-11, is it crazy not to take a shot on Jackson?
I love it. I love him at that. He's a roster construction guy, but you need some of these ceiling plays on your team. If you're padding, you got some safe guys. You have to be able to outscore your opponent. You don't want to play to not lose. You play to win. And Deshaun Jackson in your flex every week gives you that ability. And we've seen him through the years. Sometimes he can be very consistent. Other times he's not, but he always gives you that big play possibility.
Let's say you're sitting there and you're in the 8th round and you have to decide between Deshaun Jackson and Martavis Bryant.
Oh, Bryant. If Bryant is in the 8th, then I'm going to laugh hysterically at the draft.
Okay. Just at the draft itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all the people drafting.
Yes.
All right, do we want to do some mailbag? You want to answer some questions?
Always.
All right, let's jump in.
Mailbag.
All right, if you have a question for the show, we love helping you out with your team, so go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button, or you could dial our voicemail hotline at 302-464-TFFB. All right, this guy, Ryan in Buffalo, wrote in a question. He labeled the question. The subject was Mike's sick drops.
This could be the best question we've ever gotten.
He says, so Mike records all the drops for the show. Seems like some solid production quality.
Seems like.
So it makes me curious. Does Mike have any recorded music outside of the podcast via SoundCloud or iTunes? Thanks, guys. Love the show. This is a personal inquiry.
Sure. People frequently ask of our background, and we talk about we worked at a game company, and I was the audio person. I did all the music and all the sound effects and the bleeps and the bloops.
Yeah.
If you go to Mike.
You've got mail. That was Mike.
Mike
that was
made
Mike.
Yeah, I was the original guy. I mean,
you were 4.
I'm very
You
wealthy.
were 4 years old, but
But-
you had a mature voice.
The back pay on that is fantastic.
The back pay.
Yeah, where
So,
can you
sorry,
find your
sorry,
music, Mike?
sorry.
So if you check out Because I'm Awesome, like this listener has
Okay.
alluded to, MikeAwesome.co.
You still got the domain, huh?
It's still there. I don't have the heart to bring it down, but there's kind of all the music I've made for the games we did, and a couple other different things if you want to check it out.
There you go. All right, let's jump into a voicemail question on this one.
Yo, quick question. What is your favorite draft strategy? Should I go 0 RB, 0 wide receivers, early quarterback, early tight end? What are your opinions? Thanks.
All right, so your favorite draft strategy.
I mean, we talk about it all the time. This is a big part of the Ultimate Draft Kit, but it's tier-based drafting. This is one of those things where I feel like it's format proof. I mean, so long as you're scoring guys based on your scoring format and keeping in mind how many, in each roster position. But what happens in a tier-based system is you group the players that are of the same tier. This guy might be,
similar scoring output.
Yeah, if you think this guy might be, the 5th wide receiver and this guy might be the 14th wide receiver, but if they're all scoring about the same, it doesn't matter. You don't need to reach for one guy when you can get another guy in that tier a round or 2 rounds later, and it allows you to kind of take the best available and not miss out on those, because we've all been in those drafts where you're gambling and you're just not sure if the guy's going to make it back to you that you want, and then you get sniped and you're left without a certain tier of quality of player. You go, crap, now my second running back is going to be garbage. You kind of avoid that from the get-go when you go tier-based drafting. So that's what I would say.
And mine's maybe it's boring, but like your diet, it's got to be balanced. I don't do anything.
Well, not
zero.
your diet specifically, but
Well,
like
no, not
a
mine.
healthy diet.
Like it's supposed to be.
That's a very fair point. But I've mixed in a little running backs, a little bit of wide receivers. But at the end, my grain foundation, is that still the bottom of the food pyramid, the grains?
Probably.
Have we
It's
evolved
been a while.
since then?
Should be sugar, but go on.
Sugar or meat?
Yes.
Well,
Ooh,
maybe
do they make
both.
sugary meats?
Sugary meat.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. Put some
Pork.
brown sugar on a fillet. Sign me up.
It's all maple bacon at the bottom. But and I'll always end with more running backs than anything on my roster. And late QB.
Yeah, I think you alluded to it. You get in trouble when you say, hey, I'm going to do
Also,
X.
know the scoring format of your league, because we're in the crazy Scott Fishbowl right now where tight ends are outscoring everybody. Draft some tight ends, because you know what? You flex them and they score more points than the wide receivers.
Sure. And what I was going to say is when I was a baby fantasy player, I remember going into a draft saying, hey, I'm drafting 3 running backs no matter what to start. And I ended up just drafting Lawrence Maroney for no reason right before Calvin Johnson when I had 2 running backs on the board, because I went into the draft and I said, no matter what, I'm doing this because it's going to win me this league. I passed on incredible value. Big mistake.
Stay water.
There's a simple saying you guys have always said: just let the draft come to you.
Yeah.
And there you go.
And have your ultimate draft kit
Of course.
on hand. All right.
Like Connor.
El Guapo in New Jersey, I have the 7th pick in a dynasty startup. Who would you take, assuming the top 6 are gone? Well, I'm not sure what top 6, but I assume he means the 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers.
Oh, yeah,
I also
that's what he
assume
means.
that all 6 picks before you will be gone. So who would you take at 7 if, hypothetically, Lev Bell, Zeke, David Johnson, Brown, Julio, Beckham are gone?
Yeah, it says it's a half-point PPR. In general, if you start the same amount of wide receivers as you do running backs, then I'm going to go with LaShawn McCoy. I think Shady.
This is a dynasty startup.
a dynasty startup.
Yeah, that's why I got a little bit confused halfway through the question.
Oh, as did I.
Yeah, there's not quite the
So-
same consensus top 6.
Right,
there.
right. Yeah, the consensus top 6, that could break down into, that might be 5 wide receivers and one of those running backs. It might be a quarterback. I mean, it's hard to say
Yeah,
what the consensus will be. So I don't think we can do that one.
Yeah,
Well, no, we can give him an answer. Just who
Yeah,
are you
who are
looking
the-
at right around the 7?
Depending on the draft that you're in, I mean, I've seen Antonio Brown actually fall to that spot because people overvalue youth. Or, if an Amari Cooper falls there, I would love someone like that. AJ Green, I would also love.
I'll throw this out.
I'm looking wide receiver.
I'm in the midst of an industry. We're doing a mock draft, a dynasty startup for Roto World, and the top 7: Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, David Johnson, and Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of some players who could be there.
All right, last question from Brantley in Ripley, Tennessee. Is there a game of the 4 preseason games that you deem more important than the rest? And what are you looking to gain from the preseason? I can definitely answer that question. The 3rd preseason game is generally when you see the most, season-ready approach from a team. They want to give the players the last week off. They have to make final cuts, and they want to see their youngsters play in the final game so you don't see starters. What I'm watching for is not stat line-based production because players are limited on their snaps and all of that. I'm watching for something different from a certain player that we've seen. A couple years ago, it was Julius Thomas and the connection he had with Peyton Manning. A couple years ago, it was Mark Ingram looking like a different kind of running back. We saw that from Doug Martin.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago as well. So
Terrence West last year.
Sure. Or the rookie year for Chris Johnson. You said, whoa, that guy is a different player than what I had imagined or what I had translated from his stat line.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest takeaways are running backs and tight ends. That's where I see things shift more for me.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier to just say, oh, this guy is getting first crack or this guy is running routes. Wide receivers, it's much more difficult to tell in preseason.
Yeah, and because they're playing against vanilla, very plain defenses, we were all the excitement for Allen Robinson last preseason was reignited when he was dominating the preseason. That did not work out.
No, it didn't pan out. He got bortled.
Oh.
All right. Hey, before we go, I do want to remind you, if you're looking for a great league to play in, check out jointhefoot.com. We have Foot Clan leagues. These are
forming daily.
Yeah, they're forming local and online leagues with listeners of this show, players that are committed to playing, that are going to check the waiver wire, that are going to respond to trade offers.
That are good people, too.
We
don't have too many trolls.
No, we
just Josh.
Just Josh. But check it out. If you've been looking for a place to find a great league, it's being a part of a Foot Clan league is one of many perks you get for supporting this independent podcast at jointhefoot.com. We invite you. Come hang out with us. We're on the forums. We're on the Foot Clan League forums. We're always there to give feedback and to provide you with an extra episode every week, answer questions on the mailbag episode, all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, and be sure to check out playdraft.com/ballers if you want to get into best ball leagues with us. Mike, I know you're doing one every week, right?
At least one a week.
Can I get in one of those with you, Mike?
No.
Oh.
See you on Saturday.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.